Facts. I'm your host, Ron DeSantis. Today we're doing the fish room tour of Bentley.
Howdy.
Okay, what do we got here, Bentley? How big's this?
So this is one of those weird tanks where like they get called a 150 long, but they're technically only 139 gallons. So call it a 135 if you will. This is my rainbow community tank. This is like the first, when I came back to the hobby,
Yeah.
I was saying to myself, like, I'll just get this one little tank, which is a Fluval Flex 15, and that'll be a good start. Well, I went to Craigslist and like OfferUp, and I was looking to see if I could find like some other used tank a little bit bigger, because I grew up around a lot of big tanks.
Yeah.
And I found this thing with its stand for $100.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, I can't pick it up because I drive a sports car. So I talked back and forth with the guy and got him to deliver. So it cost me $150. And then this got to my house faster than the Fluval Flex I ordered off Amazon. And my roommate and I had it just like sitting in the carpet over here where now the Iguana enclosure is. And we're like, what are we going to do in this thing? I was like, I like small fish. So eventually it was kind of like, well, we'll do small community fish. And then I think it was 2 days later, I saw a tour of Gary Lange's fish room.
Yeah.
And that was game over. From there on out, I had to have Rainbowfish. And my roommate at first like thought they were really wonky body shape, because we're both like previous fish nerds that have come back to the hobby.
Yeah.
Uniform in this house. And I got him to see them in person and see like the color and the way they behave, and I was like, oh yeah, no, we want these things. And so now, almost every tank I have.
How many different types do you have in this tank? I see you got turquoise,
Great question.
Bozeman.
So there's Ayumaru Bozeman, turquoise, Irian, Goiter River. There's a species of Australian rainbow in here. There's a single Parkinsoni. There's Goldie Eye Decay. And I have a single female Kamaka rainbow in here too. That was something I adopted from someone. And I think that's, I had some more at some point, but the initial rainbows I got, like the Parkinsoni, who's kind of old and slowly getting the bent spine that really old guys get. And like this big turquoise female, they were all full adults when I got them. It was somebody had to break down their fish tank because they were moving to Alaska.
Yeah. And
I basically just bought all of their fish from Aquarium Co-op in one group so that they'd stay together. And over time, like some of them have passed. Like I used to have an adult parva that was in there. He's passed away. But all in all, like it's basically been the same fish together almost the whole time. There's a couple that have been added. And over time, these guys will get moved. And once I can do my like true final fish room, and they'll get a different enclosure and probably some extra friends. So
I love that Tiger Lotus.
yeah, this has been a labor of love that also needs some trims, but I started with like a single bulb Tiger Lotus about 2.5 years ago. That sounds right now.
Yeah.
And at one point we counted when we were going through them, because we were going to sell some as to thin it out some. We had 35.
Wow.
And now I think there's like 20 about there in there, because there's some little baby plants, and it all kind of looks like one giant field, but there's a lot of individual plants. And this is just like, they used to be like nicely manicured and only about yay tall, and then my work schedule got really crazy, so they've grown taller because they're not being aggressively trimmed to teach them how to stay a certain height, which, big tip for lilies, if you keep trimming them when they get taller than you want, they learn.
Yeah.
And they'll stay at that height and grow more and more leaves because they want to get a better amount of growth and photosynthesis. So the plants will adjust to their environment.
It's a nice crypt and a Nubius.
Yeah, so I used to have a blue Acara in this tank, and everything I tried to put in the foreground, the Acara would rip out.
Yeah.
And eventually the crypts are the only thing that she could not yank out. So she got moved because she like beat up on a couple rainbows finally. She finally decided, I'm the tank boss in all these peaceful fish, and like took a couple scale bites on some fish, got moved, and then eventually someone who's a frequent customer of mine had bought Acaras because she saw mine and was like, saw it in kind of what I called the detention tank at the time, because I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with her. And she was like, "Are you keeping the fish?" And I was like, "I don't know. I might try and rehome it to somebody who keeps Acaras."
Yeah.
And she was like, "I'll take her." And I've known her for like almost a year and a half now, and I see her regularly. She's the kind of person who she keeps goldfish and koi, and she'll buy expensive bags of live plants to feed to her fish as a good diet.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I
she's
see
gonna
her.
take good care of
I
it.
see her once a month or so,
Yeah.
and nowadays I see her so often. I'll just fill a 1 gallon bag full of plants for for like $20.
Yeah.
I'm just like, here you go, because she's in here regularly. It's feeding her fish. I know she's taking care of them. Now she's taking care of my Acara.
Awesome.
So this was my ADA shallow tank, which is kind of a neat tank. It's super low water level right now because it needs a water change, but it has lately struggled with algae, and most of that is because I'm not dosing ferts as regularly as I used to. A lot of that's my work schedule influencing my plant schedule, and while other tanks are a lot better at adjusting, this tank gets really high light, so it does not adjust as well. And I can Flourish Excel the heck out of it and fix it, but I think I'm going to actually pull this tank down and move a lot of its plants, because it's got a lot of very nice plants. I just got to clean them into the big acrylic setup that we have over here that's getting done fairly shortly. I also played a lot of science experiments with plants that are supposed to must have CO2. There's a common misconception that alternate Reinecii mini has to have CO2 to get red, and although it's covered in algae, you can see it in there. It's bright red.
Yeah.
And it has no CO2. It's cold water. It's just a lot of light and reasonable fertilizer. It's like I like playing with misconceptions in the hobby when it comes to plants and trying to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
That's just something I do. Once you've done enough plants, you start branching out to psycho levels of experiments to make sure that you're keeping yourself entertained. Instead of just what new plant can I do today? It's how can I change the way that people think about this plant?
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's kind of a fun experiment. I like the tank a lot, but at the same time, I like bigger tanks.
Yeah.
I'm a rainbow guy. We like bigger tanks.
Yeah. So we've got a 90-gallon here, which some rainbows. I've seen one of the blue phantoms in there, and one of the L333, which are from Dean.
Yeah, that's the yellow king tiger pledro. So this is another rainbow community. This is a lot of actually some very rare fish. So there's the Glossolepis wanamensis, which is the emerald rainbow. The ones that you normally see in a store are almost constantly kind of this weird brassy color and only occasionally get green. There's basically one guy in the United States who has the best line.
Yeah.
It's a gentleman named Mark Nicholson, and then all the big rainbow heads who've got good wanamensis probably got them from Mark in some way down their chain or whatever. And so that's his line are the closest to the wild, which is they're almost always green. And then only when they do their breeding display, you'll see the little bits of brass in the lower belly. And the females stay this kind of pretty silvery green color, as opposed to your Irian rainbows, where the females will be a goldy brass color. They're this silvery green color, which is kind of unique. It makes them easy to identify and a little unique. This fish is basically extinct in the wild. This is one that only exists in the hobby. The lake was fed with, or filled with a bunch of food fish, tilapia, and it just decimated the wild population. They did a wild collection, the last one I think was 2008, and they struggled to find 80 pairs of fish so that they could get fish bred into the hobby and try to reintroduce them somewhere to keep them alive. But actual Lake wanamensis are basically extinct. So that's kind of the crown jewel in there. And the other one that's in there, there's a Tinjo bosmani group that come from Rosario LaCourte's line.
Yeah.
And for those who aren't familiar with Rosario LaCourte, one, he's very old. He's been around for a very, very long time. But this is one of the best fish breeders, period. There are legends out there in our hobby that we look at. This guy is the legend amongst legends. He's Randy Reed did an interview with him, which is phenomenal. He's done tons of tetras and breeding those. That's his main jam, but he's bred everything. And if you ever find, there used to be this video out there, and I can't find it anymore, a tour of his place. And it's stepping all the way back into the 70s. because he does everything old school, way lower tech than we would ever do, and he's better than any of us. Like he's in his late 80s and still like plugging away doing fish.
That's
like
awesome.
like a complete machine.
There's a guy in my club like that too. He's 80 years old.
Yeah,
He's
that old veteran
pumps.
master.
His pumps have the fan belt on them.
Oh
The
yeah,
fish from the old
yeah.
school.
It's so cool when you meet those fish keepers have been doing it so long,
Yeah.
and they just make you feel like, oh, you're playing on training wheels,
Yeah.
kid. Get out of here. Like, let me show you how to really do this. Like, oh boy.
We had to get your newly acquired iguana on film.
Yeah, so this is Fox. Technically, my roommate's iguana, but you know, it's kind of a universal. All the pets are everybody's pets in this house.
Yeah.
But she just got in this enclosure, basically the Friday of AGA, and
Yeah, brand new enclosure.
Yeah, we built
In the
this
middle
thing.
of the fish room.
We built this thing with the help of my friend Brad, who he's kind of a side business of building reptile enclosures. The thing that'll make you like just whirl your eyes around your head is that he built this thing within 24 hours.
Wow.
From just raw material, he would started late at night one night and then finished by basically mid-afternoon with the help of my roommate the next day. And yeah, I mean this thing's pretty sweet. It's 4 foot left to right, 6 foot long, and then 7 foot tall, which the internal dimensions make it like, you know, 3 3/4 foot by 5 3/4 by like 6.5 foot. But it's plenty of space for her. She's about 4.5 foot or so total if you include her tail.
Yeah.
Which is about full size for a female iguana. Males will get a little bit bigger. And then, you know, they're vegetarians. They don't really need a lot. Their diet's pretty simple.
Salad in there.
Yeah, it's basically salad. I mean, sometimes you want to
No
do
dressing.
Yeah, no dressing. They're mostly vegetables. Like good calcium sources are really the only thing you need. So like occasionally you want to mix in like collard greens, mustard greens, stuff like that. That'll give you the extra calcium you need. And there's powder supplements you can do and put them on top of fruit. Fruit's like candy for them. Don't give them too much.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. But this is her new home, and hopefully she'll have a much better life than the cold outside ditch that we found her in the end of winter.
Yeah.
Where she was so cold, she was like stiff like a board of lumber. And my roommate found her and saved her, and now she's here.
We had similar like Februarys.
Yeah,
Vancouver and Seattle.
weather's been
Weather was brutal.
real weird for us.
Yeah.
It normally never gets that cold.
Same with us. Is it 29 gallons?
Yeah, so this is at 29 on temporary hold. Eventually, this tank will actually go down and get replaced. But this was kind of like a small fish adoption community, I guess. I don't want to say like retirement home, but a lot of it was like, here's my old fish that I can't take care of anymore. Please adopt them, somebody, anybody. I'm a big softie, so I used to do that for quite a while. Now my schedule just doesn't even allow it. But also in here are my wild-caught Melanitania rubrostriata, which is called the red stripe rainbow fish. Finding wild-caught rainbows is actually really, really hard, especially something like this, which hasn't really been in the hobby for a while. I got them through Dan's Fish, who is a phenomenal guy. And they were in a 40 long until a small like seep started happening in one of the seams, and it was like literally like a dripometer, just drip, and we noticed it, and we watched it for a day just to make sure it wasn't something that like we had spilled. So we cleaned the whole area up, and then next, we noticed it start dripping again. I'm like, okay, we have to replace it. I've had a 75 long acrylic that I wanted to put them in long term when they get bigger. I just didn't have the proper stand for it at the time. So we've kind of done some hijacking of some equipment to make that happen, and then they'll be back in there in probably about a week or so.
I like the scape with the valve in the middle.
Yeah, so that's actually just grown over. It used to be only on this this half over here, and this was mostly like crips in front and stems in the back. But Pygmy Chainsaw and Val are notorious for taking tanks over, which is what this has done.
Nice. We got so much great footage that we wanted to use it all for Bentley's Fish Room Tour. So this ends part 1, and next week we're going to do part 2. So join me next week for another edition Friday Fish Facts.